are determined to improve the health service over the next few years.
Sally, let me just, before I finish with you, do you consider yourself a frontline service?
Yes, absolutely, yes. I mean, we see people who have severe mental health problems. If we're not there, then nobody treats them. I work with a client group who don't have English as their first language, and in the absence of us, there is nothing. And these clients are going unfound, untreated. The longer they are untreated, the more complex their mental health problems become, and the more complicated it becomes to treat them. So we need to get in there quickly to prevent mental health problems in the future.
You said it was a very important service when I asked you that question. Is it a frontline service?
It's a really important service, but the decisions...
Is it frontline?
Yeah, but hold on. The decisions about the allocation of resources for particular specialities have got to be made on the ground by the health authority. I can't decide from here that your service should get priority over another service. What I can say, it's an incredibly important service, and I do appreciate that.
OK, let me bring in Mike Weston now, because I think Sally spoke about targets a little earlier that were set. I think you feel that your mother was a victim of that. Please explain to the Prime Minister what happened. And
yes, my mother was an 86-year-old, very active, lived on her own, and suddenly broke her hip and waited 7 hours in A&E before she was taken to a ward because there were no porters, and waited a further 12 days, 3 operations in the end, and sadly died because she simply couldn't take it. And my feeling was that there was an obsession with targets, and there was flawed systems of self-assessment and a culture of blame and fear, and most of all, patients seem to be at the bottom of the pile. Prime Minister, what could you say to somebody that suffered that sort of situation?
No, I'm very, very sorry what's happened. I mean, the first thing that should have happened is that she should have been treated in accident and emergency within the time that is a guaranteed time. So there was a breaking of the rule. Now, if that rule is broken in future, there will be compensation for the patient. But equally, she should not have had the other difficulties that she faced further down the line. And if you wish this to be investigated, it should be investigated, because we cannot have second-rate service from a national health service which you are paying taxes to fund. And every time I see an instance of where, whether through MRSA or CDV-SEAL, or through what you're saying, that the system was not working well enough for your mother, and that is incredibly personal to you, we should investigate what's gone wrong, make sure it can be corrected in the future, and not allow a culture to develop where second best is good enough. It's only the best that is good enough for our National Health Service.
Mike Weston, come back on
that. My feeling is I'm passionate like that lady about the NHS, and I can see every day that I pick a newspaper up, there's a Stafford, there's a Basildon, there's all of these incidents. And it strikes me that we need a full-scale review of the NHS to put it right. Now, that's a big question, I know, but we're never going to correct it unless we see what we're doing wrong.
Well, we've created the NHS Quality Care Commission, so any instance which is raised by you or anybody else ought to be investigated fully.
The Prime Minister, it needs teeth to deal with these things.
It's got
as a director of a company under health and safety rules, if someone died as a result of negligence, that director would be sent to prison or fined. Why are we not seeing charges brought against people in the NHS that have caused this negligence?
This commission has now the power, and there will be the ability to close down the management of a hospital that is failing.
Okay,
I think you'll find in future that there is a toughness about the way managers behave. Now, doctors have got to be registered with a professional body, and they can be struck off the register. Now, in future, managers who fail, they too will be struck off the register.
One of the areas, of course, where there has been, there's been increased spending on health, there's been increased spending on education. One of the areas of greatest controversy has been over defence, as you well know, Prime Minister, following your appearance at the Chilcot inquiry. I want to talk now to Anne Probyn, because I think your son, Daniel, he died in Afghanistan, didn't he?
He did, yes, in May 2007.
Oh, and tell us what happened.
A bomb went off the side of him. He was on a night patrol, and that's all with the information that was given. There was a bomb above ground level went off. Well, this is what we were trying. We are trying to sue the MOD for the equipment. What you should be carrying is ECM equipment to counteract these IEDs.
And he didn't have the equipment?
He didn't have any equipment at all. So my son was set out on a night patrol in the dark, just his gun. That's fair enough. He knew he was a soldier, but would you like your son to go out on a night patrol with no equipment?
Well, I'm very sorry about what's happened to
And
Daniel.
also we've been trying to sit for the right to life.
Yeah, I'm very sorry about what happened to Daniel, and I'm very sorry for the grief that deaths in Afghanistan have caused people. And you've always got to ask yourself whether you're doing the right thing by having troops in Afghanistan. But in the case of your son, there should be a full investigation that will give you all the information you need. As far as these explosive devices are concerned, what happened was at a certain time they moved from Iraq to Afghanistan. The tactic, the Taliban tactic, became using these explosive devices. And we've now brought in all the equipment that we can for aerial surveillance, for ground surveillance, for electronic detectors of this equipment. And the minute we've seen that this threat has been growing, we've put in as much equipment as we can to deal with it.
You know, 2 days prior to my son going out on this night patrol, somebody was blew themselves up with one of these IED, and they said it was a low risk for my son they should not have sent my son out on a night patrol when somebody blew themselves up 2 days prior.
Well, let me just bring
I do understand what you're saying. There should be a full investigation. You've got to remember that in Afghanistan, we are trying to work with the local population to prevent them ever allowing the Taliban back into their areas. So we do have to have patrols so that we keep in touch with the local population. But obviously these patrols are going to be balanced against the security risks to our troops. And I do take very seriously what you say. And if you feel that a further investigation is necessary, it will be done.
Well, I've been trying to do the right to life.
Yeah.
And it's come back from my solicitor. My son had got no right to life because he was in a war situation. But you know, like, obviously,
well, let me ask
he got no right at all.
Do you think soldiers, Prime Minister, out in the field should be covered by the Human Rights Act so that the government effectively could be sued if a soldier dies and they are deemed not to have been given the right equipment?
But hold on, there are cases going through the courts at the moment. So, you know, if the courts show that we have done things that are not appropriate, then we will have to take the action that's necessary. But you've got to remember what we're facing in Afghanistan. For a long time, the Taliban were fighting us head on. So there was these battles that were taking place in different parts of Afghanistan. Then the Taliban changed the tactics, and it's now guerrilla warfare. So they're now laying IEDs. We have got to do everything in our power to protect our forces. And that's why we've been increasing the equipment that is there. I think there are probably now about 3,000 electronic detectors out in Afghanistan now. We've changed the vehicles so that they're more safe against the threat of IEDs like Mastiffs and Ridgebacks, which are better protected against IEDs. I can just say to you, anything that has been asked for by the military for equipment for Afghanistan to protect our troops,